Imagine waking up tomorrow and rolling over to check your phone, only to find that things are not how you left them. Hundreds of likes and comments are flooding your Instagram inbox. Your ManyChat is going off the hook, and several pieces of your content have actually gone viral. Your 100-person audience is now nearing the 5-figure mark, and you literally have to refresh the app twice just to make sure it's real. Then it hits you. You open your email and start to shake. Application after application is sitting in your inbox. People actually want to work with you. This was the dream that convinced me to quit my successful corporate job back in January of 2021. After spending hundreds of hours in quarantine watching YouTube videos of other people who quit their jobs to start successful online businesses, I was hooked. The more content I watched, the more I convinced myself that this was for me. And it didn't really matter how risky it was, because every single success story I watched served as just another way I was brainwashing myself into thinking that this was what I had to do. So I quit. Now, there are so many videos on YouTube about people who grew their businesses to 100K and 500K and $1 million plus. But there are very few videos on YouTube talking about what happens when you take all the risks and put it all on the table and it doesn't actually work out. So that is what this video is for. Now, spoiler alert, I did eventually build a profitable and impactful coaching business, but it wasn't because I just kept showing up and staying consistent. The things I'm going to share with you in this video aren't only the reasons why I did not succeed in that first year, but they're also the things that I needed to change in order to be successful later on. So with that, let's dive in. Number one, hard work isn't enough. In order to better explain this concept, I'm going to bring you through something that I call the 3 levels of hard work so that you can understand why simply being good at getting things done and getting things done at all isn't enough to be successful in business. Now, the first level of the 3 levels of hard work is what you have to do. These are the bare minimum tasks that need to get done for whatever goal it is that you are working towards. So for building a business, these were things like filming content, editing, scripting, setting up systems, taking free client calls, taking sales calls, seeing my clients. All of these things had to happen if I wanted to have a business. Not even a successful business, just a business required me to show up and at least do those things. Level 2 is what you have to overcome. These are the things that are operating in the background as you are taking action on the things you have to do. But different than the things you have to do, these are not things that you would ever put in a checklist. For example, if we're talking about business, things you would have to overcome could be things like putting yourself out there, showing up confidently even when no one is watching, having friends or family mysteriously stop asking you about your career, or having lifelong friends unfollow your account as soon as you stop posting more. All of these things are things that will inevitably affect how you take action and how you show up to the bare minimum things you need to do in order to be successful. But they're not things that you would necessarily write down on your checklist or agenda. They're just things that are going to affect your energy as you're checking off your to-do list or your tasks. And that's what makes the things you have to overcome so challenging, because they're things that on the outside, no one sees you going through them, but on the inside, you feel yourself going through them every single minute of every single day. You are working on that goal. These are all things that don't necessarily look like they affect your time, but they are things that affect your energy. And because they affect your energy, they do subtly start to affect how much time it takes you to do things, or how much time it takes you to get started, or how much time it takes you to actually even get yourself to have the energy necessary to show up. And so as a byproduct, the things that you have to overcome become an even bigger time suck and energy suck than sometimes the actual actions you have to take to get where you want to go. Now, level 1 and level 2 are things that I think most people experience when they're working at a corporate job or going through school. Aside from the normal tasks you have to get done for that job or that class, you might find yourself battling things like imposter syndrome, questioning how a teacher's going to grade or how a manager is going to view or perceive something you're doing, or if you've done something right. But in my opinion, it's level 3 that really sets the type of hard work you have to do in building a business apart from the type of hard work you have to do with other goals you're working towards. Level 3 is how you do it all. And what I mean by this is developing a sense of hunger so strong the words accountability or discipline or motivation aren't even in your vocabulary, because you're so driven and excited to get the goal done and have that reality, that the idea of not doing the thing at all never even crosses your mind. The reason why this is critical when it comes to something like building a business, but maybe not as critical when it comes to showing up for your corporate job, is because when you have a corporate job, you will still get paid if you show up to that job and maybe have a bad day, or you get sick, or you don't do the best on something that you do. You don't necessarily need a hunger to get the work done. You just need to get the work done. You need to battle the imposter syndrome, overcome things. And by just doing those two things, you're going to get to a pretty good point in most jobs. But when we start to talk about this idea of building a business, the challenge becomes the fact that just doing things and just overcoming those mindset blocks only gives you the bare minimum, because building a business is exponentially more difficult, more risky, and requires a level of energy to be put into tasks so that you're not just doing the task, but you're doing it so above what you ever thought you could that you are going to capture the attention of other people. Building a business doesn't just require you to set yourself apart from the rest. It requires you to set yourself apart from who you've shown up to be this far in your life. When I was first starting my health journey and I wanted to lose weight, I went through years of my life where I had all the tasks I needed to do in order to be successful at losing weight. I would go to the gym, I would eat healthy, I would get good sleep, and I made sure that I always did those things. I always checked them off my list. While I was doing those things, I would sometimes battle these thoughts of, I don't really want to show up. I don't want to do this. I'm kind of lazy today. I didn't get good sleep last night. Maybe I should skip the gym. And those thoughts would take up some of my energy and cause it to take longer for me to check off the things on my list. But oftentimes, I'd say 80 to 90% of the times, I still followed what I said I needed to do for the day. But even though I did those things and I battled those thoughts, I saw little to no improvement in my overall physique or my health for years. At one point, I actually started to see myself digress, even though I was showing up, even though I was checking off the to-do list. It wasn't actually until I started to challenge myself to show up with my full energy every single time I went to the gym, every single time I was going through the day, every single time I was going to sleep, that I actually started to see improvements. So while before I might have shown up to the gym and made sure I got on the treadmill and I did my 3-mile run, or I got on the weights and I lifted the weights in the way that I was supposed to that day, I wasn't actually pushing myself or my abilities while I was doing it. I was showing up, but I wasn't pushing it. I wasn't doing it to the best of my ability. When I started showing up to those same workouts or those same meals or those same activities to the best of my ability, to further than I even mentally thought was possible for me, that's when I actually started to see physique changes. For me to accomplish a goal as big as changing my physique when I was already a relatively healthy person, it didn't require me to work out more or do more or just continue to show up. It required me to show up with more energy, more passion, more belief, and more desire. Showing up from that energy is what created the difference, not just in how I looked, but how I felt. And that's what got me my goal. And this is the same concept that goes for business. While you can probably get through just about anything by showing up, if you want to create something truly out of the ordinary, something that even you maybe don't believe is possible or know is really hard for you, you are going to have to show up with the energy of hunger, of drive, of desire, of urgency, and of truly giving it your best, and even better than maybe you mentally think is possible, every single moment of every single day that you show up. That was the number one mistake I made when it came to my first year of business. I thought that just by showing up, just by doing the work, just by battling my thoughts, it was going to be enough to get me there if I just kept doing it. But reality is, it's going to take a lot more energy, a lot more passion, a lot more drive, and a lot more urgency to get you there. Because building a business isn't just one big checklist of who you have to hire and what you have to do. It's the ultimate test of your self-belief, your self-worth, and your ability to master yourself. Number 2, stop looking to be saved. If you've ever been around the business coaching industry, you're gonna notice that there's this very subtle idea in everybody's marketing that in order for you to be successful, you need what they have to teach you. A lot of people, I think, get this idea that there is something out there that they don't know, or someone out there that has a magical secret that they haven't learned yet. And that magical secret or that person or that piece of information or that tool or that trick or that mindset shift is going to be the thing that changes it all. It's going to be the thing that saves them. And what this does is it creates this subconscious pattern for a lot of us where we are subtly looking to be saved because we want the business to be successful so badly that we will literally do anything we can to make it happen, but we don't fully believe it's possible for us. And because we want it, but we're afraid it's not possible, we look to be saved and we look for that from other people. What this often leads to is a huge waste of time because you're constantly waiting for the next program or person to help you or tell you the secret or get you there. And sometimes so much so that once you've purchased a program or started working with someone, you will actually slowly kind of not work as hard until that program starts, thinking that that person is going to tell you something that's going to kind of diminish all the work you're doing right now, or you waste a ton of money. Like I've said in the title of this program, in the first year of business, I spent over $20,000 on a mix of coaching, business programs, services, systems to get my business up and running. I actually went through those investments again before I recorded this. And of all of the investments I made at that time, only $6,000 of those investments are ones that, looking back, were worth it and I would spend money on again. And that's why this idea of stop looking to be saved is so important, because if you are someone who really cares about what you are building and what you are working towards, but deep down you are afraid of it not happening, you are going to be prone to outsourcing your power to other people, other programs, other places, because you hope to God that there's someone out there that can save you, that can make your business come to life, that can make it work. And the truth of it is that the only person that can save you is you. And so rather than letting that subtle victim mentality really start to create this cycle that you fall prey to, you have to start to realize that the only thing that you are missing is that it's going to take all of you. It's going to take all of your energy. It's going to take all of your ambition. You're going to overcome so many things about yourself, but you are going to have to show up with that relentless, ruthless drive, energy, passion, and belief you can succeed if you ever really want to. No one, no program will ever teach you that. And if you don't have that, any program you join won't actually get you the same results until you have it. Number 3, your success is not dependent on the next thing or anything else outside of you. When you start working on something that you care about, but you're also kind of scared it might not happen, you will self-sabotage yourself. And sometimes it'll be in the subtlest ways that'll feel so real to you. One of the most common ones that I experienced, and I've seen time and time and time again from friends and clients, is this idea that there is something else outside of you that you need in order to be successful. If I have this, then it'll be okay.
If I have more followers, if that video goes viral, if I get that certification or some better systems, or I finally work with that coach,
then I'll be successful. But the truth is, nothing outside of you is ever going to be the thing that determines your success. My first year of business, I saw a bunch of people doing really well on social media because they were quitting their jobs and traveling a bunch and then talking about it all over Instagram. And so I started traveling a bunch and talking about it all over Instagram as if the travel would be the thing that would actually make me money. It would get people to be interested in me. It would get people to want to invest in my services.
Because look at me, I'm this young girl who is able to travel the world because she quit her job.
And I've also seen this in a lot of people's marketing where people think that by telling someone how much money they're making, that is going to be the thing that brings everyone else in.
Oh, I made $10,000 this month. I made $50,000 this month. Oh my God, I had a $500,000 year.
There's this idea that that external thing that I have done, that thing that I have accomplished, the thing that I am doing, that's what's going to make me successful, not myself. And this is where we have to realize that our self-sabotage is sneaky. In subtle ways, it'll tell you that you do not have what you need to be successful right now, that you need something else in order to get there. And what that does is it makes you prolong the type of action you actually need to take in order to create that success. And what's interesting about it is that some of these things, they actually might be things that will bring people in the long run, but not just because you did it. It's because the energy you put into it. And it comes back to this idea of your energy and the energy that you're putting into your business overall. Because people can smell fear. People can smell when you're not being authentic. They can tell when something's off, when you're traveling just to market yourself and hoping it'll bring people in, or when you're telling people you made XYZ amount of money or showing screenshots of your viral video. That only works works if it was authentic, if the energy is aligned with it, if you're doing it from the right place, and if you actually believe in it. That's why when I was traveling, even though my travels were beautiful and I was doing all these cool things, it didn't actually work to grow my business or my following because it wasn't authentic to me. The way that I was showing it was in this weird, needy energy of, I hope this works, I hope they bring people in, but deep down I knew that that actually wasn't right. And so number 3 is really just this reminder for you that there is nothing outside of you that is ever going to get you there. It doesn't matter if you quit your job, if you go travel the world, if you get the certification, you can create success from any single one of those points. But as long as you're chasing other points outside of you, hoping they'll bring the success in, you're lost and it's not gonna work. Number 4, being smart is not as important as being independent. I have this hypothesis that if you grew up in a traditional school system where you had teachers and they graded your assignments, or you worked in a traditional corporate job where you had managers and people above you that maybe checked your work or told you if it was good enough before it got sent to a client, there is a level of self-trust that you struggle with, and it is going to greatly affect your ability to have a business. It will not make it impossible, but there will be subtle challenges that you will face that you might not even realize you are facing because you are so conditioned to using other people's validation and outside approval as your metric on if something is good enough or not. And when I started my business, I was 1,000% this person, and I was a huge people pleaser, which meant that I was very good at gauging what other people thought of me and then molding into what I thought they needed me to become. It was one of the biggest downfalls when it came to that first year in business, because when you start a business, there is no one that is checking your work. There is no one else above you. There is no one you can ask your opinion to that's going to care as much as you do. And because of that, if you don't care enough and you don't trust yourself enough and you don't back yourself enough, it's going to be really hard for you to maintain consistency, because anytime you put something out there and it doesn't do well, guess who you're going to blame? You. And where are you going to look when you have your whole entire life looked outside of you for approval? So you get in this weird dialogue with yourself where you never feel fully confident with what you're putting out, and you never know why it's not working, and you never know enough to back yourself. And it comes back to the very first idea that we talked about, where when you own a business, you have to be the number one person to back yourself. If someone comes to you and says you're wrong, you have to be able to stand strong and be like, no, I'm right. If someone leaves a hate comment on any of your content, you have to back yourself and be like, I'm good. You are always going to have to be the person that stands up for the work you do and what you say and what you preach. And if you haven't developed that muscle of learning to ask yourself what is right, learning to ask yourself if it's good enough, learning to ask yourself if you believe in what you're doing, at the end of the day, no one is going to back you as much as you back yourself. But when you have only been conditioned to ask for other people's approval, developing that muscle can be kind of difficult, and it can make your process in business that first year very hard if you don't know what is happening. And that's what happened to me. I had hinged so much of my own self-worth and never really practiced developing my own opinions or ability to make decisions, that starting to make those in a business sense was something that I cared about so much, was really challenging, made me feel kind of lost, and really delayed my ability to get things done from that energy of urgency, of drive, of belief. If you're someone who identifies with what I'm saying, my recommendation to you is that you actually take time right now, before you quit your job, before you start your business, or while you're starting your business, but you take the time to really get to know yourself and really learn to back yourself. Your number one weapon in business is your own self-trust, your own self-belief, your own self-worth. Build that now and it will speed up your journey exponentially. And number 5, it's not too good to be true. Personally, I think that most people, when they start their business, deep down fear that it might be too good to be true. There's this idea that if something is enjoyable and I can set my own schedule and my own hours and make as much money as I want, and I like it, how could that be real? How could that even be a possible reality? And if it is, how could it be for me? And in order to wrap up this point and this video, I want to share a story of how I really learned to navigate this fear specifically. 1 year after I had started my business, I not only blew through all of my savings, but I also had only gained a couple hundred followers on Instagram, and I hadn't made very much money at all, to the point where I had to actually move back in with my parents, and I essentially hit my rock bottom. It was almost this perfect storm of everything that could go wrong was going wrong, and it was happening all at the same time. And I remember there was this day where I was at my parents' house, and it hit me that it had been a full year since I had started this business, and here I was, seemingly worse than I was before I had ever started. And I remember that I told myself, in 1 year, if I don't make any traction, then I'm gonna let this go and move on. It clearly wasn't meant to be. But deep down inside of me, I didn't really want to let it go. And this realization that it had been the full year, and I was at this point where I might have to actually go back and take my old corporate job back again, it created enough shock for me to be like, oh my God, what is happening? Do I really want this? Because now I actually have to choose. Do I show up fully and make this thing happen? Or do I let this dream go? Is it over? This choice created the urgency in me, not only to realize I really want this. This really matters to me, and oh my God, I have got to get my shit together. But it also forced me to ask myself, what in the world is happening? Like, why did I just go through an entire year showing up, taking risks, investing money, doing all of these things, and still didn't see any results? And the more that I started to think about this and question it, the more that I started to realize that it was because this fear, this deep fear inside of me of this might be too good to be true, this might not be real. It was actually creating these massive self-sabotaging patterns inside of me that were preventing me from going all in. They were preventing me from having that urgency we talked about in the first point. Somewhere in me, I had learned that if I went all in on this goal, if I put all of my energy behind everything I did, if I really showed up from my fullest extent and capacity to do this, and then it didn't work out, it just wasn't meant to be. And this subtle belief that there was a reality where this actually was too good to be true, it held me back from ever going all in, ever putting both feet forward and just jumping. And when I realized that, it changed it all for me, because logically I knew that's just not how that works. That's a belief that I was holding on to. That's a belief that I was operating from. And that is the belief that was causing me to self-sabotage the very thing I wanted most. And by believing that, I was basically guaranteeing I wouldn't get what I wanted. And so as I started to understand that this idea of something being too good to be true, while it seems like just a phrase that we say or something that lives in our society today, it's actually a very real concept that really can hold someone back if they don't understand how it's playing out for them. When I realized that, I made a decision that I would not let that limiting belief stop me anymore. And from that moment forward, I showed up finally from my fullest energy. And within 1 month, my entire reality turned around. My business took off. My following went viral. I had everything that I had been hoping would happen that entire first year happen. Not because I did anything differently, not because I took different actions, but because I took the actions from a different place. And I chose not to let this belief of it could be too good to be true rule my life anymore. So if you've already started your business right now, or you're getting ready to take the leap, realize that the strategy and what you do will never be as important as how you do it, and bring your focus back to what is going on inside of you, because I promise this will be the thing that sets you free. That is all for this video. If you guys want me to do another video breaking down all the different investments I made that added up to that over $20,000 number and which ones were worthwhile, which ones were not, and why, let me know in the comments below, and I will make sure that we make that video next. Bye.